Good evening, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Hilaal Live. My name is Faraz Patel. I'd like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us, and my colleague Luqman Shadrack for taking you through that first part of the show. Now, yesterday, Cricket South Africa held separate meetings with the South African BDS Coalition and the South African Jewish Board of Deputies after the removal of David Teeger as the captain of the Proteas Under-19 team ahead of the Under-19 World Cup. Now, this comes after he was relieved of his captaincy due to security threats posed to him and his teammates, according to CSA, after he dedicated an award to soldiers fighting for Israel. Joining me now to discuss this, I'd like to welcome from the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, who are affiliated with BDS, Hassen Lorgat. Mr. Lorgat, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Okay, so Mr. Lorgat, you were part of those meetings with Cricket South Africa. Break to us down what was spoken, and one would have thought that it had to be very meticulous in, of course, the points that were brought out by yourself and BDS.
Yeah, I mean, I pointed out to them that part of my contribution, and others who were present, was very strongly involved in anti-apartheid sports movement led by SACOS. You know, and I wonder if people still remember that Hassan Hawa coined the phrase, there can be no normal sport in an abnormal society. And we pointed out that Cricket SA has to do a lot more to transform the game. We were particularly disturbed that they blamed us for causing violence, or it was implied that the solidarity groups, non-violent, militant but non-violent, were the ones that would cause disruptions, and on the basis of that, they removed Teeger as captain. So we told them it was a good decision to remove Teeger as captain. He had brought the game into disrepute. He was celebrating murderous troops from the IDF who have been responsible for killing over 24,000, it is now, maybe more, people in the Gaza, mainly young children, younger than Teeger. And what is interesting about it is that the soldiers that are doing the killing are the age of Teeger, 19, 20-year-olds, etc. You know, so for us, it was not a vilification of a Jewish person. Many of them were present with us in the campaigning. Rina King from Jewish Voices for Peace was present with us in the meeting and found it highly abhorrent that anti-Semitism could be used as an excuse and for campaigning, around Teeger. Teeger is a young guy who's made mistakes and needs counseling, we suggested to them. But you know what's interesting to note? That there are young soldiers in Israel who have joined a campaign called Breaking the Silence. And they have argued, as former soldiers, snipers and all that, that the daily reality of occupation and military rule over Palestinians is the cause of all these problems. So even soldiers, so where I think Teeger is wrong, is that he's choosing to support, or his family or whoever's encouraged him, to support those who are murdering, not those who are recanting and have seen the error of their ways. So clearly, I think that the decision was beautiful. It was the correct decision, and we told CSA, but we told them not to lie, not to blame us for being violent, because we are non-violent, you know.
Mr. Lorgat, as the Jewish Board of Deputies, they were at CSA earlier today. Their argument is that this is pure out-and-out Semitism. Is that the only argument that they can bring forward with regards to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're smarting over the defeat that they received at the International Court of Justice, the UN court. I mean, our South African team was so good that it embarrassed them. They were fumbling, they were shuffling their cards, whatever else. And they don't know how to recover from that, because they realize since this war on Gaza began, they've been losing support all over the world, even in the Western capitals where the elites are on their side, those who run corporations, those in charge of public facilities. They've been putting pressure on those people in government to outlaw the BDS, ban people for speaking for freedom. Germany in particular is the worst. But everywhere, thousands and thousands of people have taken to the streets. 2 million people in Jakarta, 300,000 people in London, 100,000 people in Cape Town. There is no place to hide. And they are on the receiving end. And they're trying to fabricate lies. And they only hark on the 7th of October as if the whole world's history begins on that day. Palestinians were dispossessed in 1948, but the violence against Palestinians emerged even before that. That was the first Nakba. And as the South African lawyers argued in The Hague, that the daily experience of Palestinians on the ground is tantamount to ethnic cleansing. They are being starved. They have no water. Fewer trucks come in to service them in an emergency, right? Relief aid than would normally have gone into Gaza. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. What kind of people are these who have suffered at the hands of Nazism to treat others in this way? Palestinians are the victims of the victims.
Mr. Lorgat, you mentioned earlier about rehabilitation. Now, David Teeger is, of course, a youngster in his teens. And I mean, I followed his cricketing career, and he's actually quite good at what he does. But unfortunately, he's obviously dedicated this award to soldiers who are committing these vile acts in Gaza. How much of that rehabilitation is needed? Because, it's unfair to box all Jews in one, because we see, for example, the South African Jews for Free Palestine, who are voices for the liberation of Palestine. So how much of that rehabilitation for himself is there to be needed for him to actually understand what's going on in Gaza and to understand the deeper politics of why Palestine is where it is right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we don't have to do anything. I mean, the decision is the correct one. There's Joan James, a young township kid who's now given the chance. This is the kind of transformation that we want who are involved in the SECOS politics. We want young kids who belong to public schools, who play without shoes. We want those kids to excel. We don't want to be obsessed with elite kids, but we also recognize that sports is an arena where nation building can take place. But it requires an openness of heart where those who are privileged have to realize that they are playing today because we fought yesterday. We fought against apartheid in sport. We fought against apartheid in all avenues of life. We boycotted. We encouraged our allies all over the world to stop the Springboks, the cricket teams, from playing, in London and elsewhere. And Teeger and the other young white kids and privileged kids are beneficiaries of that. So any form of counseling must start with an acknowledgement that they are beneficiaries of the struggles of other people, largely blacks, but also liberal and radical white comrades from the Jewish community and elsewhere. I mean, the first and only white South African, or the first white South African to be hanged in this country was from the Liberal Party. He was involved in some bombing campaign around the Park Station or something. He was a school teacher, and I'm not sure even if he was a principal, right? And he was a very, very strong campaigner for the anti-apartheid sports movement. So the movements historically have been against racism in all its forms. And Zionism is a form of racism. So taking it from SECOS, the slogan that I think we need to create, and I'm trying to do it now, is that there can be no normal sport with an abnormal Israel. That state has to be fundamentally transformed to give equal voices and rights to Palestinian people in one state, because the other state has been bombed to smithereens. There is no two-state solution any longer. And that we hear some of the people talk about there should be two states, one like Pakistan, one like India. The truth is that in Palestinian land, since the time and before Netanyahu, they've fought every day to make sure that nothing is viable for Palestinians. That is the kind of counseling that they need to have. But they must also talk to Jewish progressives, Ronnie Castrels, Rena King, various people, Bluen. They are there to talk about them. They must also phone up these people who basically say to the army, you are an occupation force, former soldiers, And the kind of reasoning that was given to keep Teeger in captaincy was that it was freedom of speech. That is nonsense, because you cannot have the freedom to propagate war. You cannot praise those who are killing others, because we don't permit it in this country. So clearly, I think Trengrove in his judgment was wrong, right? You cannot propagate war. Those who propagate war are not even fit to be in the team. And this is the magnanimity that they should accept, that Black South Africans, those who oppose apartheid, have been magnanimous not to even kick him out of the team. He is, I don't know what they're crying about. He's playing badly at this moment, but he's playing.
Hassen, Mr. Lorgat, Jazakallah so much for joining us here on Hilaal Live. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam, and hope to see you soon.
Inshallah, it's Hassen Lorgat, who is part of the Palestine Solidarity Alliance. He was with, of course, BDS yesterday at Cricket South Africa when they were talking about, obviously, the taking out of the captaincy of David Teeger. But David Teeger is still in the team, of course, and he will be representing the Proteas Under-19 side at this coming weekend's Under-19 World Cup, which is being hosted right here in South Africa. Do stay tuned to Hilaal Live. We'll be back after this break.